All right, y'all. I absolutely love this clip. So Stephen A. Smith, I don't know, for whatever reason, recently he's been more involved in politics, more interested in politics than he was in the past. You know, he's a sports commentator. And I must admit, I'm a sucker for a good Stephen A. Smith rant. I don't always agree with him. In fact, I oftentimes disagree with him. But the way he delivers it is phenomenal. I mean, this guy has a way of talking where I'm just like, please, I want to listen to you talk for hours. So he goes on Hannity's show, which is a little bit of like, yikesy. But, in this short clip, he sort of casually dismantles Sean in a way that I found very, very pleasing. So let's listen.
There are way too many people in this country that want socialism.
Right.
But socialism, I wrote a chapter in my last book, Live Free or Die.
That's right.
Socialism, whatever form, manifestation, name, every time it's promised, promises are never fulfilled. It always ends in more poverty and a loss of freedom.
Let me tell you what I said. Let me tell somebody what I said.
Let me just interject to say that's obviously not true. The Scandinavian countries are way more socialist than we are, and they have better outcomes in virtually every measurable way. Better healthcare systems, better education systems, higher wages. They self-report being happier. So what he's saying there is just not factually accurate. But anyway, let me go back to Stephen A.'s response because it's better than mine.
It always ends in more poverty and a loss of freedom.
Let me tell you.
More poverty. That's absurd.
Let me tell somebody what I said in defense of you one time. I said, listen, I said, I'm a proud capitalist. I ain't apologizing for that to anybody.
We know that.
Right, that's right.
I read your contract.
I'm not, oh, there you go. I'm not apologizing for that to anybody.
Yeah.
But when you say socialism, I think there's another category. There are some people who don't oppose capitalism. They just believe that they don't have a fair and equitable shot at taking advantage of a capitalism.
And you would agree with me that any American that puts their head down, works hard, plays by the rules, provides goods and services that people want, need, and desire can succeed in this country.
I think they can, but that doesn't take away from the fact that there are a lot of people that deny them.
And I love you as a friend. You're a good man.
All right.
Stephen A. Smith.
My favorite part of that clip is how Sean Hannity just totally disregards what Stephen A. Smith says and goes right back to his fortune cookie bullshit. It's like Stephen A. Smith has a response that totally dismantles what Hannity says, and Hannity's like, but you would agree with me with insert platitude here. You would agree with me that working hard is good and then getting ahead because you work hard is good. It's like, yeah, that's actually the point of many of the critics of capitalism. The point of the critics of capitalism is we don't think people are getting a fair shot here. We don't think this system is truly a meritocracy. We don't think the cream really rises to the top. We think the whole thing is rigged. You want to know why they think that? Because it's true. Because it's true. Look at the number. We've talked about this before, but look at the numbers where, for the first time in modern history, you have billionaires paying an effective lower tax rate than working class people. That happened because of Trump's 2017 tax cut bill. That's insanity. A regressive tax system like that. There was a time when Warren Buffett challenged people on Wall Street. Hey, if you can prove to me you pay a higher tax rate than your secretaries, I'll give you $1 million of my own money. And nobody could collect because none of them did. See, that's not fair. That's not a system that makes sense. You're not giving people an equal shot when you load them up to the gills with student loan debt before they get out into the real world. You're not giving people a fair shot when they work full time, but they don't make enough money to survive. That's not a fair shot. That's not a reasonable system. So ironically, as Sean Hannity pleasures capitalism here in front of the world, fillets capitalism in front of the world, the arguments he's using for his support of capitalism are actually the reasons why capitalism has failed. So I want to watch that one more time.
I'm a proud capitalist. I ain't apologizing for that to anybody.
We know that.
Right, that's right.
I read your
Now, by the way, let me just say, I know, kind of yikesy, but he's on Fox News. So to say that, it's like this is him disarming the Sean Hannity argument before he gets to the real criticism.
Right. I'm not, oh, there you go. I'm not apologizing for that to anybody. Yeah. But when you say socialism, I think there's another category. There are some people who don't oppose capitalism. They just believe that they don't have a fair and equitable shot at taking advantage of a capitalism.
And you would agree with me that any American that puts their head down, works hard, plays by the rules, provides goods and services that people want, need, and desire can succeed in this country.
I think they can, but that doesn't take away from the fact that there are a lot of people that deny them.
And I love you as a friend. You're a good man.
All right.
So did you get his point at the end, too? Did you get his point at the end? He's basically reiterating the argument that, like, yeah, there are plenty of people who look at the system and they say it hasn't provided the promises that it did. And so that's why there's a third category. It's not just, and it does drive me kind of crazy, right? It's just, you're either a capitalist or you're a socialist. And it's like, dude, what are we talking about? First of all, there's 17 different flavors and varieties of both capitalism and socialism, right? Like, it is capitalist, totally unfettered, free market, laissez-faire capitalism is a thing where it's like anarcho-capitalism in a sense, where it's like no rules, no regulations, wild, wild west. That's a form of capitalism. You know what else is a form of capitalism? What we have in this country today, which is like a mix of all sorts of regulations, some good, some bad, a social safety net that's cobbled together with, Medicaid and Medicare and things of that nature. Like, there's so many different flavors of capitalism, and there's so many different flavors of socialism as well. In fact, we talked about it the other day, but there's statist versions of socialism. There's non-statist versions of socialism. The only connecting tissue is that basically there's social ownership of the means of production. But you can have, like, a worker co-op is socialist, but that's like socialism at the company level versus you could have socialism at the government level, like state ownership of an industry is also socialist. So there's all these different things. And compare this with how Sean Hannity talks about the issue. There's no complexity, there's no nuance, there's no different degrees or layers, just like you're either a capitalist or you're a socialist. And again, the easy debunking of his point is the Scandinavian system. The systems where they have a better mix of capitalism and socialism, where there's more socialism than we have here. And those countries are eating our lunch in a variety of different ways. And honestly, I think that's what Stephen A. Smith was kind of getting to as well. I think that was his point. Like, hey, there's also a third option. It's not just you're pure capitalist or pure socialist, because there isn't even one version of each of those things. And there's this other thing where people say, and I've made this point before as well, that your actual goal should be to create a fair, just, reasonable meritocracy. Because that's the straw man of a lot of socialists and social democrats, is that, hey, capitalism is for meritocracy, and the harder you work, the further you go. And socialism or social democracy is not in favor of meritocracy. And I've always argued my social democratic impulses stem from the fact I want an actual meritocracy. Like, the only way you could have a real meritocracy is if people's basics are met, right? Healthcare, education, roof over your head, meal in your belly. Like, you have to have the basics met in order to have a fair shot. If I drop you in the middle of the desert with no shelter, no food, no water, are you really free? You're free to die, is what you are. You're free to die of thirst or hunger or heat stroke. That's not freedom. But that's the kind of so-called freedom that the capitalists are in favor of. And so I did enjoy that clip. I did enjoy Stephen A. Smith sort of casually. I like seeing people get through to somebody who there's no hope for. Like, there's no hope for Sean Hannity. We all know that. But I like how you could put Stephen A. there and he can kind of very simply just say, your whole categorization is wrong. There's a third option here that you're not allowing for. And the idea that, like, the system we have now already gives people an equal and fair shot is ridiculous. When you look at the numbers, when you look at the number of people who are working poor, when you look at 85 million Americans being uninsured or underinsured, when you look at over 70% of the country living paycheck to paycheck, it's kind of a ridiculous notion, isn't it, Sean? Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.